Usually, why you get it? Look, I started it just so people around it. I think they're a little more of their thing. Yeah, that's right, he does have a kind of.
All right, so I know we'll have a few more people come in a little bit later. We'll see how many come in, but I know a lot of us are gone this week for Fourth of July weekend on vacation, people on cruises and at the beach, and all sorts of fun things. So today we'll talk about a different discipline that maybe is weird to think about as a discipline or a practice. We've been talking about things that are sound more austere, more uh, sobering, you could say, that are, you know, we haven't talked about fasting yet, but study, prayer, simplicity, and so forth. But now we're talking about one that's maybe sounds kind of fun for one. So we'll talk about the celebration and fellowship. So there are two things that kind of go together to help you balance out, like the silence and solitude, where you're by yourself or in silence. So this will be one to sort of balance that one out, as there, as Solomon said in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything under the sun. So, but before we do that, you got to remember this. But I took some words out. So, see, so let's together. Train yourself in godliness for a while. Physical training is of some value. Godliness is valuable in every way, holding promise for both this life and the life to come. It's the present life. I have here.
Hey, Robert,
Yes.
you can start now.
Yes. Just in case you need a visual reminder. Um, so one famous quotation, maybe you probably know, but is not does not a good man consider every day a festival? And this is talking about Diogenes the Cynic of Sinope from back in 412 through 323 BC. You might have heard of him. He's the guy who went around, I think, wearing only a barrel, living in a barrel in the streets of his city, and he pretty much go around in like a loincloth and would not have anything. He has many famous stories about him. This philosopher who practiced a very austere way of life, but he is very noted for not needing anything to be happy. And
He did walk, he walked around in a barrel.
well, actually, he lived in a barrel.
He
Lived in a barrel, walked around. I don't know if he was completely naked or just in one
He lived in a, was it a large barrel or?
yeah, a large barrel. We think it was small, but this is probably a large, big one that probably. But yeah, he lived in a barrel. He's famous for telling Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great came to him and said, "I will give you anything that you ask for." He said, "Move over, stop walking, my son." That's what it is. He didn't need anything, whatever the most powerful man in the world asked him to have anything. And that's sort of what he is known for. And for him, he said, this is not a good man to consider every day a festival. So every day for us is a day of celebration, hopefully, as Christians, in a certain sense. And in what sense is this true? He's a secular philosopher. I think that's a pretty good saying to contemplate and think about. Actually, can you open that door? Signal a little bit better. I can't. So, what is celebration in What is celebration in the Bible? There's many places. So we're going to look at some verses. And most of these verses are in the Old Testament where you see communal celebrations together. But so can someone turn to Leviticus 23:40? Steve, turn to Leviticus 23:40. Aaron, can you turn to Luke 15:32? And Bob, can you turn to Deuteronomy 12 and read verses 5 through 7? And can I give another volunteer to read 1 Thessalonians 15:16? Okay, yeah, you can take that. So Leviticus 23:40 is talking about specifically the Feast of Booths, or the Feast of Tabernacles, whichever Bible translation it out, which is a festival, a fall festival, a harvest festival in Israel, and it had lots of other purposes. And they would celebrate by gathering in Jerusalem, one of the three big pilgrimage feasts in Jerusalem, and they would celebrate together. And it was supposed to be a time to celebrate the harvest, to rejoice, even though there was definitely some more serious or solemn festivals as well. But Aaron, can you read just that verse?
Steve.
Yes, Steve. Sorry, yes, you are Luke.
Leviticus 23:40. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of beautiful trees, branches of palm trees, the boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before your Lord your God for 7 days.
Okay. So yeah, that taking all these different branches, and they're supposed to make foods with them, with these different types of branches. And we're not going to go into that, but the last part of that verse is you're going to celebrate and rejoice before the Lord for those 7 days, that 7-day festival. And then, Bobby, can you read Deuteronomy 12, 5 through 7?
Okay. Deuteronomy 12. You shall seek the place where the Lord your God chooses, out of all your tribes, to put his name for his dwelling place. And there you shall go. There you shall take your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithe, the heave offerings of your hand, your vowed offerings, your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. And there you shall eat before the Lord your God. You shall rejoice in all to which you put your hand, you and your household, so that the Lord your God has blessed you.
Okay. So here it's talking about sacrifices, and this is probably one of those parts of Deuteronomy where I was kind of gloss over the page. But whenever he's talking about bringing your sacrifices before the Lord in the temple, what is the general attitude that it says you're supposed to have? What is it that you're going there to do, according to this aspect of talking about sacrifice and offerings to God?
And to rejoice.
Rejoice and eat before the Lord. Rejoice over what?
Everything God has given you.
Everything God's given you, all the work that you've done, and all the fruitfulness that God has given you. And so this offering is a part of your rejoicing before the Lord. And maybe there's something that we can take from that. If we're thinking about our offerings to God as well, it's a cause of a time of rejoicing and celebration. Okay, now, Aaron, can you read Luke 15:32? Remember, this is the parable. I can't remember which one of this is the. I think this is the lost son after the prodigal son, or maybe it's the lost one. Yeah.
Well, we have to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.
Yes. So here, the celebration that the father had when his son came back to him. And this is after a series of 3 parables, right? The parable of the lost sheep, the lost coin, and then this parable, all about that which is lost will be found. And at the end of all 3 parables, there's celebration and rejoicing. It says the angels in heaven celebrate and rejoice over that soul that comes and is found of the lost. So we also are to rejoice whenever someone lost, whenever repentance occurs. And then finally, Anne, you read First Thessalonians 15:16. I think it's pretty.
I think you meant 5:16.
Yes, 5. Yeah, there's not 15 chapters, only 15 chapters. Yes,
Okay, King James says rejoice evermore, but Jeff's Bible is quite different. It says be joyful always. I like both of those.
rejoice always, rejoice evermore.
Rejoice evermore.
Very one of the shortest.
Yeah.
I think in terms of, because between this one and Jesus wept, in the Greek, I think this is the shortest verse in the Bible. I think, just because, how many, it's a term of how many layers, essentially, so both are very, very short. Okay, so rejoicing and celebration are a part of the Christian life, and it should be something that we practice intentionally. And I think we all celebrate certain things. I think we might have celebrated something yesterday. Is that right? We celebrated something yesterday for something. Quinquacentennial. Sesquicentennial means like uh, uh, yeah, so that's sesquicentennial anniversary of America's founding, 250 years ago. So that's great. Now, but here we'll think about what is it that we should rejoice for as Christians. I'm sure there's innumerable things that we could make us cause of rejoicing. But one of the focuses for today is thinking about community, so doing things together, celebrating together. But you can also have celebrations with families. It's much harder to have celebrations by yourself. You can celebrate by yourself, but it's sort of needs to be together. It's one of those things that's supposed to be practiced. Um, Good time as well next week. This Wi-Fi, so wanted to do that. But what is there to celebrate? So I mean, some of these things we could debate it, so I'm not trying to cause controversy, but baptism's something we should definitely celebrate more. I mean, there are people that probably celebrate their baptism as like sort of their spiritual birthday and go out and celebrate it as a sort of birthday for them. And so baptisms should be celebrated probably more than most, almost anything, probably even more than your actual physical birthday, your props, the world to think of it that way. This is, you didn't have any choice on whether you came to the world or not, but you didn't have a choice in this. And it's a good thing to celebrate, to think about that event, because just as the Israelites celebrated the Exodus as they came out from bondage from Egypt and crossed through the Red Sea, and they remembered that through the Passover, we also we celebrate our salvation, say, supper, but there might be some significance to celebrating your own baptism, to think about it as in your own personal event, your personal history. I think some people celebrate Jesus' birth. When do people usually celebrate, or how do people usually celebrate Jesus' birth?
Pretty small.
Christmas, yeah. Yeah, and that goes back pretty far back into Christian history, and I'm sure there are some folklorish traditions that got started with Christmas, but it did not start as a pagan holiday and that became Christianized under Constantine. It did not start necessarily that way at all. But Jesus' birth can be celebrated electively. I'm not saying this is something that everyone has to do and that we're commanded to do, but it's something that maybe is worthy of celebration. I think it's the incarnation of God, right, into the world when the light first came into the world. That's something worth celebrating in one of the darkest times of the year. Uh, and so you can, if you don't celebrate Christmas as a religious holiday, you do have the liberty to do so. But you also have the liberty not to celebrate it as a religious holiday. The problem is your conscience, or you just don't feel convicted that it needs to happen at Christmas time. The resurrection, and Christians also celebrate the resurrection as well. Usually at a specific time of year in the broader Christian world, which is Easter. Usually it's a celebration of the resurrection. And in the King James, I like the King James just translates that word as Easter in the book of Acts. Whenever they translate the word Passover as Easter in King James version, which I found fascinating because it is yeah, it's really worth looking into. But it's like the word because they would have celebrated Easter at that same time. But I get back to the resurrection in the book of Acts. That's how the translators decided to do it, to put that concept back in.
I like that you put it equals Exodus.
Yeah, I mean Jesus' exodus from death.
It's also, they were, anyway. I mean, we were, released from the bond of slavery of sin. And the Israelites were, during the Exodus, were released from their bond also.
Yeah, and right. And so that's where the God's provision for us, and this is something that communities have been celebrating for a long time, even before Christianity, even before even other societies have celebrated the divinities providing for them, but we celebrate the one God, His provision for us. And usually usually historically it's been in the form of a harvest festival, which a lot of even American societies have harvest festivals. They're used to whenever, especially more agrarian societies with lots of farmers, and they have had all that hard work and then they get to eat from the fruit of their labors. And so what this does is a time of thanksgiving for the harvest, and there are psalms and passages about thanking God for His provision for us and material needs, because you sort of need a good harvest to survive in the winter, whenever things aren't growing much. And it's a time of renewal and a time where they would pray for rain, as we know from other passages such as Zechariah in the Bible. They would pray for rain for the rainy season so that they would be able to have a good harvest the next year as well. So that's something also worth thinking about is, can we have a regular time? I don't know whether it be annually or whatever. Is there a regular time where we can celebrate God's provision of us? And we can do this every day in prayer to something, but maybe it's worth having a bigger celebration, making a bigger deal out of it than common. And we come from a restorationist tradition that we decided we're going to get rid of all celebrations that, every denomination is made up because it wasn't commanded. And they're sort of just white and slate clean. But with that has come, what are we going to, how are we going to, is it a bad thing to celebrate those things that people have done? That's something we're considering. I mean, we can talk about it here, but I think it's,
In Kodiak, first tour there, I'm pretty sure it was, there was a little rift in the congregation because one of the kids' Sunday school classes, they were doing it was with the younger kids, they were having them decorate Easter eggs and stuff. So they were celebrating the way the world celebrates Easter, and it's a little bit. I was a brand new Christian, and so I was like, well, what's the big deal? Just celebrating Jesus' resurrection. I still don't think it's a big deal, but it's just me.
yeah, there's different attitudes on how to do that. We need to think it's important to discuss them and try to not have so much vitriol from either side. Try to have civil conversations between.
Yeah, that's how they eventually worked out. And then the other examples, like I already told you guys when I first got here, there was a church protesting Santa Claus in the mall with all the kids.
Me too. Okay, I mean, out of the things you get upset and offended about.
Yeah, that one. This is why Christians are looked bad on.
Yeah.
Robert, the one word, celebrating God's provisions for us, I mean, I don't think it's like our Thanksgiving might fall into that.
Yeah.
It's harvest,
That's
harvest time, it's, pausing, understanding how thankful we should be for.
Yeah, I mean, Thanksgiving is one already a time where we have, you should hopefully celebrate that. And I don't know how people's Thanksgivings are, but I mean, the conscious thankfulness is maybe not always a part of every Thanksgiving, but I think it could be a really spiritually enriching time if we were a little bit more intentional about that aspect of it.
We tried to thought about doing like going around the table and saying what you're thankful for, but then the food gets cold, so that's.
I think it's easier to be thankful after your food, your stomach's there. So that could also help. Doing that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we'll talk about this really quick. So what are there's some benefits of celebrating is that there are things that are truly worth celebrating. I hope that we take the time to do that. And I would say Rachel and I are terrible. We could be a ton better at taking time to celebrate things that are worth celebrating. I already am thinking of, I told Rachel, and I'll tell you, if you all are invited, but whenever I finish my dissertation, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to go, and you all are invited. It'll probably be here. But we'll see how many people are at CB. But, celebrate things that are worth celebrating. Don't be afraid to throw a celebration for things and actually make it a celebration, not just a time where I'm going to feed these people, but we're actually going to take the time to celebrate a specific thing. It's also an opportunity to show gratitude for the things that you're thankful for and the things that you're celebrating. And as I think we talked about how gratitude is an extremely important spiritual practice that we need to do daily, multiple times a day. But celebration is something that maybe it's scheduled, hopefully something that's scheduled, even, and so it becomes part of a rhythm of your life. Is sort of celebrations, whether it be quarterly or annually, for certain things. Celebrating together also helps Christians form an identity together by doing things together, celebrating the same things together, recognizing that you value and are thankful for those things together. It helps bond people, and which is why it's important to eat. Why we have events like potlucks and our Wednesday night dinners and celebrations at the beginning of every month almost. We have those for a purpose. It's to help us. And one of the things it does is it helps us grow closer to one another and form our identity around those things that we're thankful for and who we are and what we do together. And we need to sometimes take ourselves less seriously. Christianity definitely has a very serious element to it, but it also has a very joyful and celebratory aspect to it at times that we need to make sure that we keep. It isn't just tears and sorrow and penitence, but it's also rejoicing for what we already have. I think balancing the two is important. You can have both.
I look at worship services in my mind, it's supposed to be a celebration. There have been congregations I've been to where you go through worship service and it's solemn the whole time, but as you've seen here, it's not that way. Here,
Yeah.
people clap while they're singing and to me, we're supposed to be alive and being joyful that Jesus made us part of his family.
Yeah, and I think that it's important I think that there are extremes in both ways where people
Oh,
make it a funeral, like a really, really sad, depressing funeral. And then there's, usually not as common among churches, right? But I will say that, I mean, there's definitely people who are probably more charismatic groups that would, they're all over the place and there's like no order, it's complete chaos. It's probably not the best. And I know people have been in those, that was, I don't even know what to do here, so, a lot. But I think there's a way to balance. I know there's different cultures and different things. If you're going to the Church of Christ, even in Africa, it's going to be a lot more jovial a lot of the time, and than here, right? Maybe a lot more exciting. But we need to maybe take ourselves less seriously at well. There's some ways we can celebrate. So I'll actually ask you for your feedback on this. What is something that you've done to sort of celebrate an event that was actually a celebration, not just something that you should put on? I think weddings are a good one. I think of weddings. Wedding receptions are honestly the best, like really good parts of the wedding. Like, I think that you could get rid of all the other fluff of the wedding, all the other expensive aspects. If you just throw a good meal and fun time for people, I think that more people would enjoy. I think it'd be great. I remember my cousin's wedding, super inexpensive. My cousin Shelby, it was super inexpensive, but I remember it being like, it was like, I was in high school at the time, and I was in the wedding, and I was like, man, this is an awesome wedding. It was like, there's hardly any major elaborate planning, not very expensive at all. It was outside in their grandparents' backyard, and the wedding reception was, was at night and evening. And there were most of it was under a tent, and it was lights strung out all around. And it didn't take very much, tons and tons of planning or tons and tons of expense. And it was like, man, this feels awesome. And like just most of it was family and friends getting together and actually celebrating this couple that they dated all throughout high school, and I think he just graduated high school whenever they got married. And it was awesome. And they're still one of the couples I look up to today. Uh, uh, and it's just kind of that celebration of being together, celebrating the couple and enjoying a good meal together. There's nothing quite like that. It doesn't have to be insanely crazy and elaborate, but it can be just enjoyable. Mark's Mother's Day celebration, where I got to eat a filet mignon. That was a good one too. Filet mignon. There's nothing quite.
Well, I was gonna say, we've had a lot of baby showers at our house.
Yeah.
Though they're not simple. Pretty elaborate.
I like your Mother's Day. So I think you also took time to sort of pray and to congratulate the mothers. I'm not one of the mothers that you congratulate, so I felt like it's special for the mothers. So I guess you get the mothers' opinion on how they felt. I appreciate it. So what is it that you all celebrate too? If you do as a family? We don't celebrate.
All the normal holidays and stuff like this, you got, I mean, I already told you, you're doing ribs and stuff over at Brandon's house, playing games and stuff. But you're talking about bigger celebration.
I mean, it can be somewhat religious. So I think there can be a religious aspect to all of it. Usually it's in prayer.
Yeah.
But
My family always gets together at funerals. It seems like that's when we get together. And everyone says, we need to get together. You know, like, we need to do a family reunion. And it never happens. And it never happens. You know, it's like we all recognize it would be a good thing to get together more. But we don't take the effort to do it. And I just think we just get too busy. Our lives are so busy. And no one can figure out how to, you know, oh, well, this date doesn't work if one family, one family, you know what I mean? So it becomes difficult to do this.
Everybody finds time.
So be more intentional, you know, like you got Bob, make celebration intentional. That's we need probably focus on doing.
It makes it harder when people are scattered, you know, in our culture today.
Well,
It's an option for people, families to live in the same area.
That is one of the things, uh, that makes it hard for families to do it. But, that's why hopefully we can do celebrations with people around us. I hope that, you know, we can hear you. But I do see the importance of families getting together, family reunion. And it was very special every Thanksgiving. And I think it would, there's a lot of family reunions. I'm gonna get negative about it. But how is it that we can make celebrations more intentional? Because, okay, here's how it goes for me. Maybe this is reflecting. Sometimes we have celebrations and we never actually recognize what we're celebrating. We just meet together and weddings are probably the most, one of the things where we actually recognize it the most, where we celebrate the couple. And there's a lot of ceremony in the couple. But we also, everyone has a good time eating, drinking, dancing usually. So, how is it that we can make celebrations more intentional when we do them? If we were to choose to celebrate, we have to choose a celebration first. I guess. Okay, let's go with Thanksgiving. How can we can go around the table, like you said, and say what we're thankful for. Maybe what's another aspect we can make Thanksgiving celebration more about being thankful for God's provision for us. Right? There's not really wrong.
Teacher is going to say someone that take charge to do it. Because like I know with our family, you know, we have obviously our prayer and we talk about it, we don't do that. But it's like someone has to say, okay, let's do this. And it's that first plan. And I plan all the time. That's all I've done for 34 years is plan. So to me, it comes very natural, but for other people, it doesn't. And they're just like, oh, who's going to start it? Who's going to do this? I know for my family, that's how we are.
Okay, that's a good, no, that's a good, who's
Have
gonna,
have a master of ceremonies? Is that-
And I just like that, you know, someone has to step up and go, okay, why don't we do this? And that doesn't mean they have to do all the work, but they just have to, let's come up with some ideas.
Yeah,
Let's make it better and get it started.
yeah,
And that's any of that.
yeah, that's right. And so you have to decide, am I going to be that person for my family? Or my group, who is it going to be? I mean, if it's at the church, you know, it might be one of our elders that makes the celebration, but depending on what the celebration is for,
The last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, we've done Friendsgiving. Initially it started out as, frying a bunch of turkeys and putting meals together for people who are less fortunate in the community. And then at the end of it, we would have a thing together, celebrating that way. So that was kind of being purposeful in helping out other folks and celebrating what we have, being thankful for what we have and being able to share it with others. So the last couple of years, it's been mostly the Friendsgiving part of it. the congregation and stuff getting together the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, we didn't actually, other than that, we've invited people, but other than that, it's been that much more purposeful than that.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I think that it goes down to, you have a person who's trying to help, sort of make a small plan, it doesn't have to be super crazy elaborate, but have something planned to help focus maybe just if you're having Thanksgiving beyond the thankfulness and what God has done for you, and reflecting on that, it can be a very powerful thing as you think about all the many things you have around you, all the great foods you have. But also the friends and relationships you have that are gathered there. So, I mean, having a person there, but that person, maybe, if you were that person, what is it that you can do to help bring that about? And we have the internet. You can look up all sorts of different traditions if you want to try to start.
GPT.
Yeah, if you want to
Be all about it.
give me suggestions on what there are a few things on ways you can make it celebrating, ways that you might be more comfortable doing if you don't want to give an elaborate speech every year. Obviously, that's not going to be part of it at all.
Instead of passing the prayer request, when you do Thanksgiving, you pass the what you're thankful for. And then at the end of it, speak it, somebody can speak it and then pray. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It can be a great opportunity for gratitude. And that's one way. You can have everyone go around doing it. You can have them write it out so that someone else speaks it out. People are more comfortable being put on the spot like that.
Well, like Jeff said, the food would be cold by the time we go.
Exactly.
So while we're eating, we can be passing.
So that's just one way. And as I said, there are so many different things we can celebrate. And it could be, you could, if you're trying to do this family, think about it that way. But if you're a church, talk to your elders about it. Or if you're the elders, talk to each other about what is it that we want to celebrate, like really special. How are we going to do that intentionally? Celebration is an important thing to try to do visually.
It is interesting though, because we have, the Super Bowl, chili, party cook-off, whatever you call it. And really, there's not a whole lot of interest in the Super Bowl. So maybe we need to be more intentional about what that's going to be about, but it's always a really good, fun time. Everybody likes it. It seems like every year we have more chili.
Theirs was bigger. I think this last one was the biggest turnout we've ever had. Every year it gets more and more popular.
And then we did the dessert
Yeah, that was good.
thing, but we really didn't have it was like, so a dessert competition, that was the reason to get together, but we could have been more intentional, from a spiritual standpoint, a gratitude standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of, you mentioned earlier that in churches of Christ, I know when Lynn and I became Christians, you didn't, there was no Christmas tree in the foyer, Easter eggs. I mean, we kind of come from a tradition of you don't know what you can celebrate, what you can, kind of it's a little swirly, But if we as a family sit in and say, hey, look, here's some things we could celebrate during the year without it being overwhelming.
We've also celebrated small things, well, it's small to us, but like graduations, people graduating from different things. Like you said before, baptisms, that's not small either, but, we've had other celebrations. Dalton and Danielle were here, they had a couple of celebrations here in the building too, for the whole congregation invited. But yeah, you're right, the point you just said though is the one that is what we need to do better at, and that is making it more intentional on being thankful and celebrating God for what he's done for us at the same time.
Yeah, and that's really the main part of it. I think that Christians can be we can become some of those joyful and thankful people overtly. And the way we do that is the way that we pray together, the way that we celebrate together. Will be very different than how the world tries to throw a celebration if we wanted to. And
How many feasts and festivals and all that did Jews have?
Caribbean, of course, you guys had at least seven. That, I mean, and it's also minor ones, that sort of, like the unleavened bread, and we went with Passover, so like a minor one. And then you had Pentecost, which is the other major, one of the other major pilgrimage festivals. The Feast of Booths, but then you had like the New Year's festival, awesome. Some debate about that. And then you had, yeah, some other things to do all of that. Oh yeah, and then you had the Day of Atonement, which is much less celebrated, much more penitent, and things like that. So yeah, there's various. There's probably about seven, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. But
When did the Feast of Lights start?
that started in the intertestamental period, the celebration of the Maccabean revolt, and taking back the temple from a corrupt priesthood instituted by the Greeks. So it started about in the 160s BC, and we see that celebrated. Yeah, the Feast of Lights in Hanukkah. Yeah, it's the festival. Jesus, we do know he went to the Feast of Lights at one point, based on one passage in the Gospel of John.
I think what you have when you sit up there, you're gonna play together as a sort of, as a celebration. And I don't think we don't intentionally say, oh, we're gonna do something together and it's gonna be a celebration, but it is celebrating time with each other, just like, it doesn't have to really have a title, it doesn't have to have a planned out, just taking advantage of being together and just enjoying each other. That's a celebration.
Yeah, and one of the things that found fascinating, I taught a class at the University of Cincinnati on an introduction to Judaism, and I did a whole class period on Shabbat or Sabbath, how they celebrate it, and it's a very fascinating how there's different types of ways people practice it depending on what type of Judaism you practice, but it's very fascinating how people use that time to celebrate together. It's not like something huge and elaborate because you're supposed to be resting. They're not having giant festivals. There's other times when you celebrate big festivals together. But that one, it's one where they're not doing anything else. They usually come together and they spend the Sabbath day together in somewhere past. And then they might go to synagogue together, celebrate too that way. But yeah, the dinner at the evening, the first evening of Sabbath usually has some sort of a little bit of celebratory attitude as you rest and as you go about the rest of your day. So it's just a time where people come together and they can enjoy each other as well, being in each other's presence, slowing down a little bit. And I'm not advocating necessarily we practice the Sabbath like in that way. I did have a week where I had Sabbath as a form of practice for Christians to slow down in a non way. Like it's not calling it a Sabbath is not really good because it's not anything like Sabbath is in Judaism today or back in Jesus' day. But it's just a time where you regularly practice slowing down, taking out an actual day off instead of always trying to catch up on chores and just doing more work and busyness on your days not working at an office. But yeah, you're right, taking time.
It's funny because our culture has changed. I remember my mom saying she could not understand it. Her dad, they grew up on a farm. And Sunday, no, you can't do that. I mean, it could have rained all week and then it dried and the hay could be gray. Like, Dad, you should do the hay today on Sunday because, it might rain again. No, it would not. That day was set aside, Sunday was set aside. You did not. It's just interesting how now it's just, I think we were talking about, well, when I first moved here, I don't think Walmart was open on Sunday. I don't think, and then stores, like the beer section was all closed off. You couldn't sell it in all. Progressively, that's changed, because people demand they want to have access to stuff on Sunday. In the process, you busy yourself, stuff.
Yeah, and there are definitely some things you have to think about. We're not going to talk about that today. I don't know if we're going to commission that. We only have like 2 or 3 weeks, probably 3 weeks left in the study. So it's coming close to it. We're going to talk about going forward and things like that. But we'll conclude today's class. If there are no comments. Steve, if you want to take the prayer.
Any other, the only one that's up here is